How's it going, YouTube? My name is LB Ninja 7, your resident Miss Weaver Monk and favorite WoW healing YouTuber. And guys, we have some meta shaking nerfs and buffs, hopefully, coming in this Tuesday. So for us NA players, it will be on August 8th. So Tuesday, August 8th. You EU players, it will be Wednesday, August 9th. That these buffs and changes are coming. So let's go and get into it. But before we jump into the actual nerfs and buffs, I do really quickly want to show you why they are happening. So really quick, I have a Mythic Plus chart. Now shout out to Reddit. Also, get ready for the flashbang. I am on day mode. Apparently, okay, it's not that bad. But so this chart was made by a Redditor Raptor Anka. So shout out to that person. This chart is amazing. But it shows you over the past couple weeks from Dragonflight, these are the top 2,000 Mythic Plus runs each week, and they're sorted by the class in alphabetical order. So here we have Arcane Mage, here we have like Fire and Frost kind of here in the Fs. So it goes by the class, and then back here we have Windwalker. Now let's start up here. This looks pretty balanced. There's obviously like Warriors are very strong, Demon Hunter DPS is very strong, Warlocks were pretty strong, but then as you scroll down, you'll come down here to the current meta where you see Augmentation Evokers be crazy, you see Mages, whether Frost or Fire, be crazy, and then you see Guardian Druids, Holy Paladins, and then you see Shadow Priests. Then you see some Vengeance Demon Hunters. But that is the God comp that you guys have probably heard about. Some people call it the Exodia comp. I know Eisen calls it Exodia. God comp, Exodia, however you want to say it, it's unbalanced. It is 5 classes dominating the top 2,000 runs. And then, so that's Mythic Plus. Shout out to Anka, by the way. And then let's look at raids. So this is just for healers because, you know, we are a healer channel. We're going to try to stay in the perspective of all the healers. These are the top healers in the raid. It goes off of the WoW Warcraft logs score system. So it's a little imperfect, but you guys can see. I want you guys to pay attention to what we see and what we don't see. So we have Holy Priests, we see some Preservation Evokers, we see a couple of Shamans up here too, which is nice. But what I'm trying to show you is that there's a nice diversity. A couple Druids here, Holy Paladins kind of all throughout, so Holy Paladins just very strong. We see some of our fellow Mistweaver monks, shout out to these guys, but you see almost every class. Now, if you blinked, you might have missed it, but there is only one Discipline Priest. So Viserio is, you know, holding the world on his shoulders right now for Discipline Priests. But basically, Discipline Priests have not been performing. Obviously not Mythic Plus because they're not part of God Comp. But then just specifically in Raid, they are just not performing well. People would rather swap to Holy and perform better than play Discipline Priest and perform worse. So now let's fast forward to these changes coming next week. And they are huge. So we have a couple of changes coming to like some of the God Comp classes like Mages, Evoker, Augmentation specifically, and then Guardian Druid. But we're not going to talk about all those, all the DPS and tank changes. We're just going to hone in on the healer changes. So first up is Paladin. Paladin was the healer choice in that God Comp, and they're performing exceptionally well in Raid as well, which if you know, they should not be one of the top HPS healers, but they are. So overall, getting just a flat 5% healing nerf, and that could be very bad for them because it'll bring them more in line where they probably should be in Raid, but in Mythic Plus, this 5% nerf is very taxing on them. They're going to have to use more global cooldowns, healing, less doing damage, which is very important in Mythic Plus. But also, you're going to see that this 5% nerf also kind of stacks with some of these other nerfs. So it will feel a lot worse than just losing 5% of your healing. So then Light's Protection now reduces damage taken by 10% instead of 16%. This, it doesn't look like that much of a nerf, but if you know what this ability is, you know that it is probably the most important nerf coming this entire season, or this entire change. So what Light's Protection was, is, let me find it. It was so powerful. Oh my goodness, they have so many things that all sound the same. So your allies with Glimmer of Light, which is a hot that your Holy Shock placed on them. Your allies with oh my goodness, where is it again? Okay, your allies with Glimmer of Light take 16% reduced damage. 16%, that's insane. but it's split evenly among how many people have Glimmer of Light. So if you split it among your whole party, if you have it on 4 allies, they will each get 4% damage mitigation, which is great. It helps you on boss fights. It's overall, it's very strong. You can't argue it's strong. But where it gets broken, where it gets insane, is what if you just had this on your tank? What if you just Holy Shocked your tank and then used the rest for damage? You can Holy Shock for damage on enemies. So if you just used Holy Shock on your tank now has a near permanent 16% damage mitigation, which is it's just insane. A permanent 16% damage mitigation is like having a tank external all the time. So it was just bonkers. And then when you needed it on other allies, you could spread it. You could just apply your Holy Shocks to them, get that Glimmer on them. So it was just very strong and allowed for exactly what you want from a healer in Mythic Plus. So that is that change. Let's look at now Overflowing Light now creates an Absorb Shield for 30% of the Glimmer of Light's overhealing instead of 50%. So every time your holy that Glimmer ticked, you could have it, say it ticked for 1,000, instead of putting a shield on for 500, now it's going to put a shield on for 300. So you guys can probably see that between pools, when people are topped up between mechanics, this shield was just basically adding to the health pool of your allies. Now, it can't exceed 15% of your max health, so it can only get up to a 15% health shield. But the fact is that it's just padding. It's just more health that they have that a boss can't nuke away. So it's just one more added barrier of mitigation. You could see it as mitigation because it's reducing the amount of damage happening to their exact health pool. So it's just one way to kind of bring them back more in line and kind of reduce that mitigation that we know is so strong in WoW. And then next up, let's look at Tears Deliverance. Now it only increases the healing from your Holy Light, Flash of Light, and Holy Shock by 15%, which was a 25% buff. So this is massive because it's overall nerfing this effect from Tears Deliverance by 40% of its effectiveness, taking 10% away from a 25% buff. That is crazy. That is crazy. So that will overall nerf their healing. That's what I'm talking about, is this 5% healing will feel a lot more impactful on events like this. When you have your Tears Deliverance rolling, you're just going to be healing a lot less than you were before. It will still be very good. Holy Paladins were obviously super broken, super strong, but it will still be fine, but it just will not feel like how it felt before. Now stay tuned. We're going to get through these, but I do want to talk about how this affects all the other healers as well. So then next up we have Blessing of Summer. This is part of their ability right here, their blessing, and it cycles through the 4 seasons. The 4 seasons. Oh my goodness. So the summer one, you apply a buff to one of your allies, and then every time they do damage, it has a chance to also proc an additional chunk of damage as holy damage. So they're nerfing that amount because obviously that is super broken, especially with Augmentation Evokers in the group. You're buffing their damage already, so you're just going to do a ton of damage. So that is getting reduced by a third of its effectiveness. So they're going to deal an additional 20% damage sometimes instead of 30%. And then Fading Light now creates an Absorb Shield for 3% of the healing or damage done from Holy Power Generators instead of 10%. So just further nerfing these shields, the mitigation that they're applying. So basically bringing, if you have a Holy Paladin in your group, you just know you are automatically so much more tankier than if you didn't. So now it's just all these are just bringing them more in line with other healers. All right, and then finally we have some, pretty much some damage nerfs, some nerfs to their damage. So overall Consecration, which is that little field that you summon down on the ground, you can only have one active at any time. But it's just a little circle that if enemies are standing in it, they will take away a damage. Or they will take away from damage, I should say. But now it is being reduced by 25%. So it's overall a pretty massive change. Mine currently, on my character, does about 15,000. So this will be about a 3,750 damage nerf, which is just huge. And then overall, that is just stacking on top of this. Righteous Judgment, which is when you throw your judgment, it used to have a 50% chance to just wherever that judgment hit, when you throw your hammer, it would have a 50% chance to proc a consecration at that target area, which this does not count as your one consecration that you can have at any given moment. So I could consecrate right here and then throw a judgment at this enemy, and it has half the time half the time it would spawn a consecration there too, and those would both be ticking on anyone that's standing in that little Venn diagram. So now it only has a 30% chance to proc, and if it does proc, it will have less damage on it. So overall, just a massive list of pretty back-breaking nerfs to Holy Paladin. Now, will this knock them off the God comp? Probably. I mean, probably. We might see some other healers. Mistweaver? I don't know. Yeah, we probably will start seeing people take some shamans, some druids, some preservation evokers is probably what I'd expect to see come in as the new God comp spec. But Holy Paladin, hopefully this knocks it off of its throne. Now, before we get into the other classes, because there is one other healer class that you guys probably see right now that is buffed, I do want to talk about why this is bad. Why is it bad that they nerfed Holy Paladin? Now, they did nerf every single God comp class, but just from a healer's perspective, I would say before this nerf, I thought Holy Paladin was in a great spot. Obviously, they're broken. They're doing so much healing. They add so much utility to the group. So how could that be good? Well, you see so many people swapping to it. I've said this in my most recent videos. People swap to it not just because it's good, but because it was fun. And yes, it is fun being strong. Now, do I think that they messed up here in nerfing them? Probably not. They're probably in the right here, but I do think this is kind of telling by Blizzard that instead of buffing the other healers to be in line with this, be in line with the God healer that was Holy Paladin, bring everyone up to that level again, they just nerfed Holy Paladin back down to their level. And this is just, it's not exactly what I wanted, but you know what it'll do? It'll break up that hold that they had on the meta, which is good, but it's not the outcome that I would have wished for. I wish that they would have buffed Mistweaver's Ancient Teachings, buffed Resto Shaman's healing, buffed Druid's damage, like buffed all the other healer classes, just to bring them more in line with Paladin instead of bringing them down with the rest of us. That's my little spiel, but let's go ahead and talk about priests. Now, if you watched my video that went live recently, it's my most recent video, I talked about how Paladins were basically dominating the battle healer meta, and Discipline Priests and Mistweavers were suffering from that. And I said one thing about Discipline Priests. I said if they just changed the number of atonement from 36% of the damage you do as healing to 40% of that damage as healing, we would see more Discipline Priests. And what did they do? They do that. They literally made that change. So this is overall just amazing. I am excited to play my Discipline Priest again. I don't think it's as bad as people think, just like I think Mistweaver is better than people think it is. But I'm excited to play my Discipline Priest more often. This is not, obviously, it's not a major change, especially in the Mythic Plus environment, because you're going to be doing just 4% more healing to each of those 4 or 5 people. But in Raid, this does have some serious implications, which is great. This is exactly why I said they should change Atonement's number, because it helps the Raid healing more than it helps Mythic Plus, where they're actually not horrible. So overall, these changes, this is it. This is all the healer changes that we have to talk about, but these Paladin changes are massive, and they mean something great and also something bad for the rest of us healers. Now we have more of a chance to get in those plus 20 keys, plus 25 keys, plus 30 keys. Let's see Mistweaver Monk in a plus 30 key. Mega set, that's on you. I can't do that. That's all up to you. But let's see it. I think it's possible now. Let me know down below what you guys think of these changes. Was it enough? Was it too much? Was this enough? Was it too little? Oh, also, there's some Holy Priest changes. So Rhapsody, I'll have to log into my Priest here, but Rhapsody now stacks twice as fast, and it causes your Holy Nova to deal 20% increased damage instead of 10%. So Holy Nova is where you just pound the ground and shock everything around you. It does a little bit of healing, a little bit of damage. It was their way to kind of do some melee ranged healer damage. It was a very fun ability, just not super powerful. But now that Rhapsody is going to be stacking up twice as fast and make your Holy Nova do even more damage. And then Rhapsody now highlights Holy Nova while at 20 stacks. Hey, that's a quality of life change. Now you can see when it's at its max stacks, and it'll glow so you know when to press Holy Nova. That way you can only press it when it is at max stacks. But I totally missed that. That's honestly, it's not a massive change, but this is only for You will only ever take these talents. If you do take them, you will take them in Mythic Plus. But that's a nice change. I don't think that's meta defining at all, but I do think I do want to hear what you guys think about all three of these changes. I completely almost missed these holy changes. Oh, I should also touch on these. So Vampiric Embrace for all priests is now nerfed, and you can blame the Shadow Priests for that. However, this ability has been nerfed recently, so you don't even see these other healer classes take it. Even Discipline Priest, which it would be fine on, because they're all about doing damage, and Vampiric Embrace turns your damage into healing. But Vampiric Embrace is just not even taken by healers right now, so it's not even worth mentioning, really. But like I said earlier, let me know what you guys think about all these changes. Was it too little for Holy Priest? Was it too little for Disc Priest? Was it too much for Holy Paladin? Because I am very excited to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments. Where's the monk? Where's the monk buff? I'm just kidding. I think, all the healers can be argued to be in a fine spot. It just was that Holy Paladin was shining way too bright. So I'm excited to see how this impacts the meta. I'm excited to see what new stars rise. I do expect for it to be Preservation Evoker, unfortunately, or Resto Shaman. But I would love to see Mistweaver shine, Resto Druid shine, Discipline Priests, give them their moment, you know what I mean? But thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this catches you up to speed. Hopefully you guys did not just level a fresh Paladin and start playing it hoping that it wouldn't get nerfed, because sorry, but it's your time. But guys, I appreciate you so much. Make sure that on your way out you are subscribed, because you don't want to miss any of the healing content, any of the Mistweaver content, and I plan on making videos on all the other healing specs soon, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you guys like the video if you liked it, and then comment down below what you guys think. That's gonna do it for this video. I really appreciate all of you, no matter if you're subscribed or not. Thank you so much for just watching this video and clicking on it and picking me. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.